Welcome to Grit, the Real Estate Growth Mindset podcast, hosted by Brian Charlesworth, founder of Sisu. Sisu provides growth automation software for real estate. You'll hear stories from real estate thought and technology leaders, team owners, and brokers on how they grew their business in a rapidly changing industry. You'll learn how to transform your brokerage and teams into a high-performing and analytics-driven business so you have a new, durable, competitive advantage against disruption in your market. So let's get right into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Grit Podcast. I'm Brian Charlesworth. I'm the founder of Sisu and the host of the show. And today I have an exciting guest here, Brett Jennings. Brett and I met at dinner, about 3 years ago, I want to say, Brett.
Yep.
At a KW event, actually.
I think it was.
We've been in touch ever since. A while after that, Brett came in as a customer of Sisu, and it's just been great to work with and see his growth. So I'm not going to take a lot of time with an intro, but Brett has an extensive background in real estate, obviously. The main thing I want to hit on, and Brett really is in like the top 1/10 of 1%, in that he has a team or a teamerage now doing over 1.2 billion in closed volume. And I think that pretty much says it all. Like as soon as you hit the billion mark, Brett, I mean, everyone has respect for that. So is there anything you want to add to that? And congratulations.
Well, thanks, Brian. Is there anything that I want to add to it? It's been an awesome journey and not without the struggle and challenge. Having been in the business a little over 14, going into my 15th year now, going from a solo agent to building a team, finding the limits of the team model, and then eventually landing on this hybrid model of a teamerage, which has enabled us to continue to scale.
Okay. So I want to hit on that right away, head on, because number one, I didn't even know you had moved from a team to a teamerage. I mean, I knew you were a brokerage since you're at Siting, but maybe didn't understand the full meaning of what that is. So tell me more about that, Brett.
Yeah, well, I think it was when I got into the business in 2008, was just right after Bear Stearns collapsed. And if you're going to be successful as an agent, you're always going to look for the areas of opportunities or the niches of opportunities within our industry. And in the early stages, coming out of the Great Recession, that meant short sales and foreclosures, which interestingly enough gave me the early experience necessary to understand the importance of building a team. Because with short sales, if anyone has been in the industry long enough to have had the privilege to do those, there was nothing short about them. The escrows on them were anywhere from, on the short end of the scale, 8 weeks to 8 months. And that was to get bank approvals and things. And you'd have to sit on the phone every week on hold for 2 hours for every single transaction with the bank just to get an update, try to move the thing along. So what happened was I ended up deciding to specialize in that niche and help other agents with it. So in my second year in the business, I had 100 short sales. And if you had to spend, 2 hours a week with every transaction, that was, going to become impossible. So I learned the value of leverage early on, but I also recognized that was what we call a window business, right? It had a certain life cycle for where we were in the industry. And so before the market turned back in 2010 and 11, I was starting to look for what was going to be that next niche opportunity. And clearly it was real estate teams. Real estate teams were on the rise. And obviously we've seen that, the proliferation of teams, how they have eclipsed the solo agent. And I think, it's either at this stage of the game, you either have to be a part of a team or be running a team to do well in real estate, simply because of the demands of the consumer, right? The industry has changed so much with Amazon training our consumers to expect instant delivery on every element of what is real estate that the solo agent just can't do it. So I dove into that real estate team model and successfully built and grew a team for a number of years, for about 6 years, and then started to recognize the limitations of the team model. And teams are great. And I had a great experience scaling my team from, being in personal production as a solo agent, doing 40 transactions a year in about 25 million in business, to then scaling my team up to about 160 million in business. And then I started to find the challenges and the limitations of the team model. And specifically for where we are, we happen to operate in the Garden of Eden of real estate, as I like to call it, Silicon Valley, because it affords us, some of the highest median price points in the country are currently our median's about 1.3. But with all that opportunity comes challenges. And the challenge here is that we have the most sophisticated, educated consumer base in the country. And what we found through my recruiting, training, and hiring efforts of running a team was that brand new green agents, which I know there's a lot of teams that are tremendously successful bringing in agents with no experience because they don't have any bad habits to unlearn. It wasn't going to cut it here in this market because, the average home buyer is buying $1 million, $2 million, $3 million house. Typically, they both work in tech. They have advanced degrees. And the implied assumption was, hey, we want the guy or gal who's sitting across the table from us, counseling us on real estate, to be at least as smart in real estate as I am in tech, right? And they can smell it out. They can sniff it out pretty quick if someone didn't have those, that technical knowledge, working knowledge of real estate. So we found to really make traction here, we had to work with what we call emerging talent. These are agents that have been in the business a couple of years, done 5 to 10 transactions. That was, our ideal agent. At the same time, I think Anthony Lamacchia, who is a great operator and team owner, broker, put it best when he articulated that, the limits of the team model is ultimately your really good, talented people want a path to growth. And eventually, your life cycle of your agents and your business would be probably 2-3 years max. So you have a constant turnover that happens with the traditional team model. And that life cycle for us is shorter, right? Because we were already hiring an agent that was 2 years in the business. So they get that itch to want to do their own thing even faster. So it was interesting because I really built my team on the Keller Williams platform. I followed, the red book, which is, you'll see it's all highlighted and marked up. And
MREA book that Brett hasn't only read, he's memorized.
Yeah, it's been signed by Gary, and I was in Gary's group for a long period of time. And so I adopted and implemented and executed everything in there. But interestingly, that's where I was running my business before I left. It was something Gary said to me that actually caused me to make the leap and actually start the teamerage model and eventually leave Keller Williams. And what he said was, Brett, your role, I challenged him. I said, look, I've got this problem where these agents, they come on. This is
Gary Keller you're talking about? You had this conversation with Gary?
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, Gary, the problem I'm having is I'll bring these agents in and they're doing 5 to 10 deals a year when they come onto the team. I'll work with them for, 18 to 24 months and they'll get up to doing between 25 and 40 deals a year. And then they invariably get the itch, where they say, hey, it's been great. This is awesome. I've made more money than I made before. I really like being a part of the team. At the same time, I kind of would like to have the opportunity to get a higher split on my sphere of influence and have my own identity, build my own brand.
Yeah.
And at the Keller Williams franchise, I didn't have a path to growth for them. They would basically leave my team, roll out to the market center, and I'd go from making $100,000 a year off an agent to making $3,000 or $4,000 on their profit share model. And I put it to Gary, and Gary said, well, Brett, you need to think bigger. Your role as a leader is to consistently expand your world so that your greatest people can live out their ambitions within it. And I was like, I remember that like verbatim because it was a turning point in my business life, because these agents, I had a group of them that came to me. I think 3 or 4 of the 5 agents on my team at that time kind of came to me and said, hey, look, we want to talk to you. and at that time, it was probably the most discouraging and frustrating moment of my business career because, I'd created a platform and an opportunity and a team where everyone they're crushing their goals, they're making more money than ever. And they're saying, hey, we want a higher split. And they kind of all got together, right? So I felt betrayed. I felt cornered. But in hindsight, I look back and it was actually a defining moment that helped us kind of go to this next level. And I remember talking to my wife. I was just like, man, the audacity of these guys, like, shit, I've done everything. I take all the risk. I pay for all the leads. I hired all the staff,
and they really don't understand that, right? They don't understand that you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on the line with all the money you're putting out.
Yeah, they don't. And so they were asking for 20% more, and I said, look, we operate on a relatively thin margin. If we give you back what you're asking for, we'll operate, at a 10% net profit. And that's not a durable business. If we go through a market shift, this golden goose that's lined your pockets you're going to kill it. So, but I thought about what Gary said. And then I just asked myself, what could I do to create a team environment for those people that were going to leave, where I could provide them some level of support? Because typically the people who would leave the team, they'd go from selling 25 to 35 homes a year back to selling like 15, maybe 10 or 15. And I talked to them.
I see it all the time, Brett. It's so common.
And we usually leave part on good terms. So I talk to these guys or gals and say, hey, are you having all the success that you really want to have? And they said, well, I'd like to do more. I said, well, why don't you? And they said, well, it was, what's missing? And they said, what's kind of the environment? It was a combination of like the leads, the culture, the camaraderie, all of it. And so that led me to the question, how could I create a team environment for these people and still be in relationship with them? And that ultimately is what led to the teamerage model. So what is a teamerage? A teamerage is a new brokerage model of the future, where an agent can find way more support and opportunity than they would at any kind of traditional brokerage, and higher splits than they would find on a team. Now, it was tricky to make the economic model work. And this kind of leads to what you and I talked about before we opened up the call, is every business leader, when you push for the next stage of growth, at some point there will be a chasm where your growth is not linear, as far as adding resources and people to get to that next level. At some point, you're going to need to put in more time and more money, and your business will become less profitable on a percentage of net profit basis to get to, that higher net profit by dollar eventually. And that's what happened for us. But the teamerage model, I still run a team at this. Our teamerage is called, the brokerage is called Real Estate Experts. So I still run my team, Brett Jennings Group, here at Real Estate Experts. And then I provide a platform for agents typically doing over 10 units a year that are pretty well established in the business. Our value proposition to them is they can come in and leverage the same opportunities as far as marketing and lead generation, the same support, the same technology stack that I use to scale my team from 10 to 160 million in 4 years or 5 years, that they can come in and access all those same resources. And it's been a great ride. It's certainly provided us the growth we were looking for and the impact. And so that's kind of where we're at.
So Brett, how long ago were you at 160 million in volume?
So 2018, we were at 160 million. And that's when we made the decision to start the teamerage model. Now, honestly, we didn't do any growth that first year in 2019 because I was still a little gun shy. Like, do I really want to do this? Because I tell you, Brian, every coach and trainer that I talked to, that I had worked with, I shared with them the model, because I kind of created an economic model I thought would work. But we did have to add a good number of people because it wouldn't be as profitable per person. They all told me I was crazy, I was stupid, it wouldn't work. That the only way to do this was to just run a traditional team.
Okay. So tell me, how many people are in your team? How many people are in your brokerage?
Got it. So the team now, I have 6 partner agents on my team at Brett Jennings Group. We'll do about 200 transactions this year for 300 million. Last year, we did 140 transactions for 240 million. And then I have another 60 partner agents at the brokerage. And they did another $1 billion in sales last year. So we did just around 1.2 billion in 2021.
That's awesome. I mean, if you look at that growth from 19 to 21, it's unbelievable, right? So congratulations.
Thanks. I mean, I think it really is. It's because I, was forced to ask the hard questions and the right questions. And then it was what I call a market to model match, for our market and what we're doing.
So I've heard you talk, Brett, about like, you speak very highly of your team and the people that run your team. When I say your team, I'm not talking just your agents. I'm also talking about your team that you have there running your business, right? Your team of admins and TCs and all this stuff. I've heard you say many times, I couldn't do it without them. I couldn't do it without my systems. So tell me, I mean, like what made the difference? Like, what did you need to do to get from, how many transactions are you doing total now?
We did 804 transactions.
Yeah. So to get from, 160 to 804 transactions, like what needed to change for you to be able to support that kind of growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the reality is what it takes to grow a real estate business is pretty simple. You need three things. You need really good quality, scalable lead generation. You need an amazing admin team, an operations or admin team that can fulfill on those services so that your agents are not getting stuck doing the busy administrative work, but they can really just be there and doing five things we call plant: prospect, lead follow-up, appointments, negotiate, and training. Your agent should only be focused on those five things. If they're not maximizing their opportunity, nor are you as their team leader. So
can you repeat those five things for me, Brett?
Yeah.
I want everyone to be clear on that.
Yeah, the acronym we use is PLANT. It's prospect, lead follow-up, going on appointments, negotiating contracts, whether listings or buyers, and then training, right? Constant training just to consistently sharpen the saw and get better every day because we know our industry's changing. So, support so that your agents are only focused on that. And then the third piece you just need is really good quality agents, and you as a team leader or a broker owner, need to have a value proposition that is strong enough to attract and retain, those people. So, most of the time, a lot of agents, when they're looking to grow, they go looking for the agents first. Really what you need to do is dial in your operations and admin team so that you have a platform and a base to scale on. Because if you grow quickly and you bring, quality leads and you attract quality agents, without that support, the wheels can come off the bus. And that did happen for us in 2021. It was a painful experience.
So you experienced that, Brett, and everyone sees the glamour. They see the 1.2 billion, and they're like, but it was only a year ago that you're saying the wheels were falling off the bus. Can you give us the story here? Like, what happened? How did you fix it?
Yeah, it really, about at every doubling, whatever between somewhere in doubling and tripling the business volume, at every stage, it either we had a breakdown in whatever system or process that we built in almost every department, so to go from processing 200 transactions to 800 transactions, the same systems or process that you built is probably not going to function or work at that higher level. And that's what happened for us. We actually had to put the brakes on recruiting. Our goal was even more aggressive. We wanted to go from, last year we did 470 million. We wanted to go to 1.6 billion. And about July, right in the middle of the year.
If you've been enjoying Grit, please help us continue to grow the channel by leaving a 5-star review and sharing it with a friend. Now back to Grit.
The wheels were coming off the bus. And what do I mean by that? Our transaction department, our transaction team was working 14 hours a day. And what we recognized was that like the systems that we were using, I think, for task management, we were using Trello, which is great for, a couple hundred transactions. But when we get up to 800 and we have, departments and things, that wasn't the right system. And Sisu with your task management became our default or our next step to get our systems right, which we've done. But it also required elevating our people. who was running our transaction department up until, or who was effectively running our operations up until June of this year was my main assistant, who's been with me for 10 years. An amazing, committed individual that technically, with 20 years experience can get the toughest escrows across the finish line, but she's not a clock builder, or a systems developer for scalable, really high functioning systems. So we had to identify, hire, and onboard our next operations person, which is Beth Lazar. And she's amazing. She helped put the wheels back on the bus and had enterprise level business experience that is what was required, right, to help us build and scale these systems. So that was one thing. The other piece of it was marketing. We had, we'd grown so fast. We had a marketing coordinator and a marketing manager, but we didn't really have a true director of marketing. And so we do a lot for our agents. We market to their sphere of influence for them on a 33 direct. We do client appreciation events. We do client gifts twice a year, and as well as manage social campaigns, drive farming campaigns for those agents. So there's a lot that's got to get done. And as we, doubled our agent count and tripled our transaction volume, they all became overwhelmed again for the same reason. So, but it comes back to what I started this, the answer to your question with is it's just three things really. You need to scale leads, good quality lead generation, not Facebook ad leads that.
So where do you get your leads, Brett? I mean, give us some detail. I know you're big at Zillow, but what do you do for leads?
Yeah, I mean, for us, about between 25 and 30% of our business comes from Zillow. We were a big spender on Zillow and then flipped to their Flex program. That gave us some scalability as we grew this last year. About 40% of our business comes from sphere of influence. Most of the agents, when they come to us, 70% of their business is coming from sphere. But what we end up doing is adding Zillow, as well as the third pillar is what we call event-based farming. So every listing is getting direct mail, social for just listed, pending sale, just sold. And we also provide those phone numbers for those agents so they can call around those listings, call or knock around those listings.
That's great.
Yeah. So those are, the four main pillars are high quality online, which is Zillow. HomeLight is another resource for us. Ojo Labs. We're not using.
That's crazy. OpCity.
We're not using OpCity, but that is, when we talk about high quality online, that's another one that's out there. And then sphere of influence, event-based farming, and open houses. Those are the four main pillars. And then there's, agents are doing some of their own stuff from time to time, but those are the core four that we really help them scale quality, lead generation around.
Yeah. Okay. So you get the leads coming in, you have the right team, and I see this all the time with growing companies. There's always players that are the right players to get you to a certain level. Mm-hmm. But at some point, they may take a different role in the company, or they may not be with your company, but you need to recruit and bring people in to get you to where you want to go. Right. I mean, so recognizing that as a leader, Brett, says a lot about you. And then with systems, I got to work very closely with you. And I remember first we replaced Google Sheets or Google Forms, right? Yep. And then we replaced Google Sheets for commissions. And then we replaced Trello. And I think the key for that was Sisu. And it takes some people sometimes a while to figure this out. But if you're doing your intake forms, your commissions, and your task management in Sisu, all the data is in one place, and you eliminate so much duplicate entry. And,
and potential opportunities for error. That's the big thing that we didn't recognize. What we felt the pain of as we scaled and grew was all the little places in our business where we had a VA, entering stuff from Google Sheets or taking it from one system to another. When you're only doing 100 transactions, the opportunity for error is not that great. But when you're doing 800 transactions, and those errors come up, and it's debilitating to the company because someone's got to slow down, someone's got to stop what they're doing, go fix this problem for this agent or this client, and that really, when you're trying to grow, it can take the wheels off the bus pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on figuring that out. And I mean, you're one of the largest out there that I know of. So it's incredible. And a $1.3 million average price point doesn't hurt either. So
That helps for sure. That helps.
Brett, I want to talk about something I observe about you. And, you are always growing. So we were just talking, you were at a Tom Ferry event last week, your first Tom Ferry event, but the week before I was skiing with you. And what event were you in Park City for?
Go Abundance, which was a mastermind, kind of a whole life mastermind started by some retired real estate team owners and broker owners. But yeah.
So Go Abundance, you're surrounding yourself with these individuals who are, just crushing life. And, we all know who you surround yourself with is who you become. So you do that. Anyway, whenever I see you, you're at something where you're growing, right? You're paying, you remind me a lot of my wife because you guys both invest in yourselves. I know she spends over $100,000 a year investing in herself, and I'm sure you do as well. So how did you learn that this is so important? And what are some of the key things that maybe you have recommendations on some of the things that people should take advantage of to really invest in themselves and to grow internally?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it ties back actually a question that was asked at a mastermind I attended a couple weeks back. The one question was, what's the best investment you've made in your business? Or not in your business. What's the best investment you've ever made? It could have been a flip. It could have been anything. And I look back, hands down, like I've done tons of seminars, workshops, training, coaching. I know I got relentless in the pursuit of the business I guess you'd say obsessed around 2010 or 11. Like my goal to hit the first million in GCI, I hit it in like 3 years when our price points were like 400,000. And then I got stuck there for like 3 years. And if you're trying to get to the next level and you're giving it all you've got, you're missing something. And it could be a coach, it could be a new environment, but it's usually some perspective because we can't see our own blind spots, right? So for me, I remember, that first kind of game change. The answer to that question, the best investment I've ever made was in the mastermind groups that I've participated in. And the highest level ones were typically they were paid. There was a fee associated with them to participate. I remember the first one I participated in was put on by the guys who were running the coaching. I was paying, $1,200 a month for coaching. And then it was an additional $15,000 a year for their mastermind. And I remember at the time I was like, I clenched up, right? I make this investment. And it really was the best investment I ever made because the power of mastermind, if it's a really true mastermind where they do not just let anybody in, right? They're trying to cultivate or curate the level of the people in the room and that people are at different levels. What it did for me, I was stuck, at a certain unit number. I think we were doing about 80 transactions a year or something. And then spending time hanging out with and then unpacking the business of these 15 other agents that we were working with, people doing anywhere from 50 transactions to 800 transactions a year. Something happens, right? Where you recognize if you were in the room, Brian, and I'm going, well, shoot, Brian's doing 800. We've been hanging out. Like I'm talking to him. He's not any smarter than I am. Like now this is an unconscious conversation that happens in my own mind. Yeah. Guys, shit, you know what? If he can do it, I can do it. And so it's the power of borrowed belief. And that probably is also why you hear that saying, that your net worth or the level of your life is the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with, because we unconsciously gravitate to the standards and levels of our peers. And so, and then that element of just believing what's possible when you do that. On the flip side, I know that happens to me too. When I was doing CrossFit, I'm 51 years old now, but I remember, 6 or 7 years ago, going to CrossFit and I'm in the room with 25, 26-year-old guys. And I eventually get injured because I realized I wasn't trying to compete with these guys, but unconsciously sizing them up and recognizing, well, I'm this strong. I can do this. I can go this fast. Right. And unfortunately, the body has limits that my business doesn't. I mean, yeah, my body has limits that my business doesn't.
I went to CrossFit twice and injured myself the second time. And I was like, that is not where I should be getting my fitness from. Now, I was in my 40s when I started that, early 40s. Yeah. I was like, not a good time to start CrossFit, probably. Yeah. So, Brett, I mean, it's really fun to spend time with you because like you are always asking great questions. You're always leveling yourself up. And Tony Robbins always says, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? Mm-hmm. And, I see you're so passionate and your company is just elevated. In the 3 years I've known you, you've gone from here to, and people who can't see me, but I mean, he has gone from 160 million to 1.2 billion in a couple of years. So just incredible. I know we're a little bit short on time here, Brett. I really would like to spend at least another 30 minutes with you, but something I'm interested in, I read that you have been teaching meditation for 18 years. Mm-hmm. Tell me about this.
Yeah. And actually that's kind of been on the down low. One of probably, if masterminds were the best thing that I've ever done to elevate my, personal growth, the X factor, and I'll call it a leverage point, would be meditation, because people don't really understand what meditation is. For me, my journey started when I was in college. I took meditation classes in my senior year as an elective, just because I needed to take something, and I thought, wow, okay, meditation's better than basket weaving. So, but it was interesting because we had to meditate 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 12 weeks. And that one experience completely changed my life. Like Buddha didn't appear, Jesus didn't appear, but what I saw and what I felt and what I experienced was a flow that was like happening in my life. My grades got better, my relationships improved. I'd started a business in college and it's just started taking off. And I was kind of like, well, whatever this is, I can't put my finger on it, but whatever it is good. So I want to go deeper. So a year after I graduated from college, I sold my business and went kind of on a journey. Went and spent a few months in India, backpacking around and ashram hopping. Then I went to Japan and meditated with the yogis and monks there in Buddhist monasteries. And spent a year when I finished the tour in San Diego, studying and learning from a former Indian. I mean, he's an Indian doctor named Deepak Chopra, and learned to teach his meditation practice to other people.
So you were directly with Deepak Chopra?
Yeah, I spent a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So what was interesting is, the 2 years I had that experience, and then I also worked for Tony Robbins companies for a couple of years. And, both of these individuals are having a huge impact in the world, doing big things.
Yes.
But what I would say about the difference between Tony and Deepak is it's different order of creation, right? Deepak, when you really, you get to tap into it's not your unconscious mind or subconscious mind, it's the power of the soul. The intelligence that's there within you, beyond your thinking mind, it has three attributes to it. It's omniscient, it's omnipresent, and it's omnipotent. So it's ever present everywhere. It's always here. It's everywhere, and it's all powerful. And you've heard this before, right? There's a power and a force in the universe. You can't use it. You can align with it. And what meditation does is it enables you to find and align with that flow and the greater flow of life that always wants to expand and deliver more good everywhere all the time. That practice that most people will overlook because they ask themselves, what am I doing? Sitting here in silence and my mind is making a bunch of noise, is super, super powerful. So that is, it's been a passion of mine, and I taught meditation for a number of years. I took a break when my son was born, but I'm actually going to resume teaching again this year. So
that's awesome. Great story. I'm glad I asked that. Brett, just congratulations to you. It's clear that you are aligned with the universe. Like, you care about your people, you care about your team, you care about your clients, you care about, just the approach you take is somewhat unique in this space. And just the fact that you're always investing in yourself and surrounding yourself with players. I think if we could all just learn from just doing these simple things, and the best investment, I would say the best investment we can make is an investment in ourselves, right? Whatever that is for you. But if you're growing, you're going to be happy. You're going to be thriving.
100%.
And so anyway, great time spending with you today, Brett. Thank you so much for being on the Grit podcast. Everyone, thanks for joining us today, and we'll catch you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you for joining us on our podcast. If you have an interest in a free 7-day trial of Sisu, go to sisu.co, sisu.co. Make sure that you use the coupon code GRIT, that's GRIT, to waive all your setup fees and receive a 10% discount on your subscription. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to subscribe, search GRIT, the Real Estate Growth Mindset, on iTunes, Spotify, or Podbean. And with that, we'll catch you next time. Take care.